I was hanging off skyscrapers for $12 an hour, literally had no credit card, no money. I had a $400 beta con. I was just like, I was broke as broke could be in my early 20s.
Welcome to Behind Their Success. This podcast is for people who are feeling stuck on their entrepreneur journey or in their careers. It's for people who want to scale and grow their businesses, learn about the power of mindset, or they just know there's more out there and they want to start making changes. I'm Peyton Squires, the host of the podcast. I was never cut out to be an employee, and when I was an employee, I was bored out of my mind. So I made a plan. I studied and passed the CPA exam in 8 months while working, all with the end goal in mind of quitting my job and starting my own business. I did that in 2014 and has been an amazing wild ride since. So now let's hear from other entrepreneurs and what mindsets, and probably more important, what actions they have taken that have created and led to their success.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Behind Their Success podcast. I am Peyton Squires, the host, and today we have on Jeremy Beland. His journey began with his significant financial challenges, experienced homelessness twice, and dropping out of high school at 15. In his late 20s, the 2008 recession left him jobless and on the brink of foreclosure. Feeling trapped and desperate as a distressed seller, a real estate investor helped him avoid foreclosure through a short sale. And this experience opened his eyes to the potential of real estate investing. In 2017, he decided to go all in on real estate. He sold his house, moved into a small apartment, and invested in a real estate coaching program. Within the first year, he completed 10 deals and made $77,000. Today, his companies have acquired over 425 off-market properties and have earned close to 8 figures in gross profits. Jeremy, tell us a little bit, I guess, give us a little more color to that.
Yeah. No, it was a great introduction and, great summary of the bio. So, yeah, I mean, listen, my life has been ups and downs, and it's funny because we always hear the cliche, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And then I find myself in that position and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cheesy, but that's reality. When I talk to people about getting into real estate now, because, I'm not smart or anything, but I'm definitely not educated, and I've come through a lot of struggles and a very, very humble background, of course. But as we find in life, success is really just consistency, self-discipline, and perseverance, right? So I've been blessed to have those skill sets. But basically what happened was, man, I'll try to make this quick for your audience. It's get a little bit long-winded, but I'll do my best to make it quick. I came into this world in the mid 70s, approaching 48 years old right now. My mom was a young mom in her early 20s and basically came into the world homeless. She was from a very religious family, had me out of wedlock. Her family wanted nothing to do with any of us. So she was out on the streets in her early 20s, bouncing around from house to house. The first years of my life outside of being homeless, we were on welfare, just barely getting by. And then eventually she got married, when I was probably 5-6 years old, somewhere around that. She met my stepfather at the time. And then we moved into a situation where we were like lower middle class. We had like a small house, suburban town. Life started to get better. I had a half brother and sister that were born, and we had like 2 nice cars for the first time in our life. And then when I was about 13, 14 years old, he decided to leave his good management job to start his own window cleaning business. And when he did that, he ended up losing everything in the process. And at 13, 14 years old, as I was getting ready to go into high school, found ourselves facing bankruptcy, facing foreclosure. Our cars were repossessed overnight. We just came out to school one morning and the cars weren't there, right? It was that kind of scenario. They lost the house. We basically were homeless at that point. We started bouncing around from like one terrible rental to another terrible rental. We were moving around constantly because they just really weren't qualified from a credit standpoint to get anything nice. And they didn't have any money. They were struggling. I can only imagine, not knowing as a kid now, but as an adult reflecting back, the emotional and financial stress that they were having, right, during that time with 3 young kids. I bounced around to 3 different high schools by the time I was even in my sophomore year. I was already gotten arrested a couple times. Was on, probation for like the second time. And by the time I was 15, I quit and I went to work with him to wash windows. It was a terrible decision, but also a good decision because I was headed nowhere in school. I was just getting in trouble, and that basically taught me how to start working hard and that self-discipline. Make a long story short, I found health and fitness in my late teens, stopped doing like drugs and smoking and doing all that stuff and got into the gym. And that set me in a different path altogether. I really learned about self-development and achieving goals and wanting to just get better as a person. And then in my early 20s, I was a high-rise window cleaner. During the day, I was delivering pizzas at night, working with my old stepdad during the weekends. I was hanging off skyscrapers for $12 an hour. Literally had no credit card, no money. I had a $400 Betacon. I was just like, I was broke as broke could be in my early 20s. But I was playing semi-pro football, and a friend of mine says, "Hey, dude, you should come work with me. It's a sales job selling copiers and printers and stuff like that." I said, "Okay, sounds better than hanging off a skyscraper." So I went out and bought my very first tie. I was like 24 years old, never even had a tie in my life. Had to have somebody tie it for me for the interview. Somehow landed the job. I think they were really desperate for sales reps. They hired me. Then I started my career in professional sales, selling copiers and printers and fax machines. And it was business to business. So I had to literally go generate cold calling, deal with gatekeepers and secretaries, and a lot of no's, a lot of doors slamming on my face. But I didn't care. It was a professional job. I was in, hanging off a skyscraper in November, freezing my butt off. So I was like thrilled. But it taught me a lot of, every no is a no closer to a yes, right? So all these lessons I was learning along the way, and how to get better talking to people and overcome my fear of just cold calling and cold approaching people. And then I got married with my first wife. So I was in my mid to late 20s, and all of a sudden, dude, I made it. I found myself another sales job selling cleaning service. I was making well into the six figures a year. I had this nice house. We had a pool. We had a camper up at a campground. I had nice new cars. Literally everything that I dreamed about my entire life. At my late 20s, as I was approaching 30, I achieved it. 2 young kids, a wife. Life was great. Then the recession happened in 2008. And we just put a huge addition on our house. We had about I think we had like $80,000 in equity. A year and a half later, we're upside down $150,000. What people don't realize too, and I think you probably remember that time a little bit, but a lot of people don't understand it wasn't just a housing crisis. It was also an employment crisis. A lot of people were out of work. I didn't have a high school education. I didn't have a college education, right? So all these people who are much more educated than me and that had higher paying jobs were all out of work too. And they were taking lower paying jobs just to make their ends meet to survive, which just pushed me down this totem pole even more. So I couldn't find anything. Like literally I was out of work. I got laid off. There was no loan remodifications back then. There was no government help. There's no SBA. There was nothing. The banks were getting bailed out, but people weren't. And I was on the brink of going into foreclosure and bankruptcy, and I started going into depression. I'm like, holy crap, I'm in the same situation my family is. Like, I'm no better than them. I just felt like a loser, right? And I had a situation where I could join the Air Force. My thought process was, if I can go into the Air Force, I can learn a trade to learn network security. So when I come out, I can get a recession-proof job selling firewalls, right? Because we're always going to need firewalls. That was my mindset. I couldn't afford to go to college, couldn't make ends meet. I was basically not making anything from making $140,000 just a year and a half earlier. But I decided if I had to go into the Air Force, I could find my way out. But here's the catch. Could not get into the Air Force if I had a foreclosure or bankruptcy, because I needed a top secret clearance for what I was going to do. And in order to do that, I guess the government thinks you're going to sell government secrets if you're in bankruptcy or foreclosure. So that was their mindset. So I was learning about real estate investing at that time, took a Donald Trump weekend seminar, university seminar. I was trying to get into it. And then all of a sudden the world collapsed and I just got out of it. I was in survival mode. But I reached out to a real estate investor and I said, "Hey, I need some help. I don't want to go into bankruptcy and foreclosure." He said, "I have experience working with your lender. I feel confident that we can do a short sale and get you out of this situation." Awesome. That short sale allowed me to go into basic training at 33 years old, just before the age cutoff of 34. My nickname was Gramps in basic training because I was in with a bunch of 13-year-old kids. I had to leave for 6 months to basically make $32,000 a year just to get in, just to bring in some money. It was a crazy time. That real estate investor gave me a reset button in life. And not only during that time did he give me a reset button in life, he was able, because you can't profit off of a short sale, but he was giving us money behind the scenes for like our refrigerator, our pool, and other things that really didn't have any monetary value, but he knew we were desperate. And that cash was literally like Christmas presents for my kids, clothes on their back as they were growing, groceries. Like, it was really like money that we desperately needed. That guy was a blessing in my life at that time. So I went into the military. Came back 6 months later, still trying to find a job and everything else. Finally got myself a job, got divorced. Now I'm like in my mid to late 30s and I have 2 young kids, a divorced dad, and I'm approaching 40 years old. And I found myself back to making 6 figures in life again. But as I'm approaching 40 years old, I'm like, what happens if the owner of my company sells? What if something happens? I started to feel like vulnerable of my future. And we know, and you probably know people as well. You start to come in the 40s and 50s, you just start to see people who've been working their careers for a long time, chopped off, right? And they're out of work and they can't find work and they can't get their, a job that pays their lifestyle anymore. That scared me. And I didn't have any retirement. I got to do something. So after about a year of having analysis paralysis, I came across this Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I said, I'm going to get into wholesaling. And wholesaling, for your audience that doesn't know, is basically what we do is we find properties off market, put it under our purchase and sales agreement. We assign the rights to that purchase and sales agreement to another buyer who pays us for the rights to that contract. That's what wholesaling is in our industry. Basically, it doesn't cost any money to do it, right? So I didn't have any money to join this coaching program, didn't have any money to do this. All I had was a condo that I owned for about 2 years. And I sold it. I said, all right, I'm going to sell this condo. I had $17,000 of equity in it. I paid $6,000 in credit card debt, moved my kids into a crappy 2-bedroom apartment in not such a nice area. And I was all in. I burned the boats. I took $11,000 and started my real estate business. $5,000 went into the coaching program, which got me this check for $5,000 90 days later. $6,000 was that marketing spend. We went on, as you said earlier, the introduction, 10 deals, 70-something thousand dollars that year. But since then, with reinvesting into more coaching and teams and everything else, we've scaled to be at, we're around 450 off-market deals now and about $10 million in gross revenue, which is just mind-blowing. But it wasn't easy to get there, but that's the story of how it
was. That was, Jeremy, that was a great story. There's a whole lot of things in there, and I was kind of taking some notes when you're talking through stuff of some things that I could relate to, and one even goes back, I think, early in your story when you said you found the gym and found it working out. That has been really big in my life, I would say, in the last 4-ish years. Working out in the gym is such a tangible thing and such a great tool to learn about progress and discipline and hey, I can't measure the changes day to day, but if I know and just have the faith and show up every day, you measure something in 6 months and you'll be blown away how far you've gone.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also, you want to get better at it, right? So what do I need to get better? I need to eat better. I need to drink better. I need to sleep better. Do I need to take supplements, right? All these things you start to learn, which really gets you into this mode of like, wow, if I take some of those attributes and apply them to other areas of my life, then you build this world of self-development, right? Yeah, exactly. So, back then I didn't really think about it, but it really just, set the trajectory of where I am today of just personal development. And now for like the last 25 years or more, I just try to get 1% better every day.
The other thing, I mean, I guess the drama of your story of like, you burned the boast, you had, you were in a crappy apartment, divorced dad, 2 kids, and sold stuff so you could take a course to start your career, right? I mean, like literally everything was on the line there, right?
It was. And if it didn't work, I had no backup plan, right? There was nothing else. I would have just been stuck in this job and I was making decent money, but I was still living week to week, month to month, right? I wasn't getting ahead. I was just floating and I didn't know, but I was just, I was going to make it happen. I failed forward, massive imperfect action. Once I got that first deal, I was like, oh my God, this actually works. And then my friend who, is now my wife, became my girlfriend during that year. She was just like, I can't believe this actually works. We were talking about doing this thing. I'm like, is that even legal? Is that even a thing? And, and we've built this amazing life as a result of it. Now our business model has changed over the years, but we still get properties off market. We still provide a lot of value. So we talked earlier about, I shared about the real estate investor helping me, right? Giving me a reset button in life. I've been able to do that with my companies and myself personally, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over in multiple markets in this country to other people. So I've been able to pay that forward because let's face it, we're all 1 or 2 decisions away from, being in that situation or 1 or 2 life events that we can't control of being in that, that position. So good people fall in hard times and good people need help. And a lot of us are too insecure or too proud to ask for help in those situations. So we end up like just sinking. And then somebody like myself comes into your life unexpectedly, like that real estate investor did for me, and I could change their life, give them a reset button. And the next thing you know, they're able to rebuild themselves and dig themselves out of
it's
that
so
situation.
cool that you have the opportunity and the ability to do exactly what was done for you, right?
It's
And
amazing.
the passion that comes behind that, right? Like that's got to be a whole lot of fuel.
Dude, like every day I wake up, I love what we do, and we have great people on our team. We're blessed to have people who have been with us for over 5 years now that have been in our companies, and they have the same, values, the same core beliefs of just being a go-giver and providing value to the local community. Of course, we make great money doing it, which is awesome. But it's like the best of both worlds, right? Providing value and getting paid to do it. Every day I wake up, I'm so excited. I love what we do. I can't wait to get better. I can't wait to make money. Can't wait to provide value. I can't wait to do more real
I
estate.
love
It's
your
super
energy.
fun.
I love it. So yeah, a heck of a story there. And I don't know if you know who Ed Milet is. He's a big podcaster.
Oh, of course.
But he talks about like, you're the most qualified to help the person you used to be, right? Like, the person that's going to reach, say the alcoholic or drug addict is going to be the person that used to be, right, an alcoholic drug addict. And it's so cool. You have such that perfect story of really paying back exactly, or even, even more, but paying back even more in the exact kind of like vehicle that was done for you. That's such a neat thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, it happens. There's so many people that need it more than you think. Like, I mean, this country alone has like 2 million houses that go into foreclosure every year, right? And that's just foreclosure. We're not talking about people that are hoarders or facing tax delinquency, or the house is falling apart, beneath them, or they just can't afford the house anymore. They're out of work or they need to relocate. There's all these signs of distress. We help people in all different types of situations all the time. It's really fun.
And then, I think the other piece, the other big piece of your story that stood out to me is just the humble, right? And the willing to sign up for a course, the willing to learn. Most people don't do that, right? They kind of get stuck in a position and they're kind of just waiting for somebody to save them or something to come along. I think the decision, you knew you needed to do something and you did it. And that's not even that common.
It's funny. I'm a coach now, and I started a coaching business about a year ago. And, during my process of becoming a coach and growing my coaching company, I talked to a lot of people who want to get into my business. It was really that epiphany during this time that I realized, wow, a lot of people aren't willing to make that commitment, that sacrifice. They are just hoping for a few different things, right? They don't want to spend any money. So they hope YouTube University is just going to provide them this miracle equation of how to get everything, or somebody's going to magically just teach them everything for free. But also a lot of people just waiting, I call like the unicorn, right? Unicorns don't exist. They're an imaginary creature. They're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect time, the perfect situation. And it's never going to be perfect, right? There's no perfect deal. There's no perfect flip, no perfect rental. There's no perfect opportunity. It's just, there is what you make of it, right? And you have to take massive imperfect action. It's scary. There are risks, but I feel like the risk of waiting for something better to come along and wasting that time and wasting our life is a much greater risk.
It's especially like say in the real estate market today, people are like, oh, houses are so expensive. They're sitting around waiting, thinking, oh, the market's going to crash and whatever. And like, I don't know about that, but it's people, it's really fear, right? That is leading them to not take action. And a lot of that fear is most of the time is wrapped around of like, what are other people going to think of me? They're not even afraid of failing per se. They're afraid of what other people will think of their failure. Like for an example, like, you're playing a video game, right? You don't really have anything at stakes. Like you're willing to fail at that over and over and over again, right? In private, right?
Right.
But as soon as it comes up to public, right? We want to put on the show, put on this mask, not be vulnerable. Hey, I don't fail at anything.
Right. Yeah. I'm still failing regularly. We're working on a property this year, which is a big burr rental. It's probably going to be one of my biggest failures to date, but it's a lesson, and, we're going to learn from it. We'll get better from it. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, right? We're all going to get knocked down. We're all going to lose. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to fail. But, if we don't just keep moving forward, then we're just going to live in this life where we settle for less because we're afraid of letting other people down, afraid of other people's opinions. But like, man, life's short. Like, man, I'd rather feel trying than being afraid to feel not doing anything, living a life that
Yeah.
I am not happy about. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that. So, and hey, listen, I still have my sleepless nights. I'm still stressed. There was a few nights ago, I was like, oh, sick to my stomach because a bunch of stuff that happens, right?
Yeah.
That's being a business owner, but what if you're in a company like one of our students recently where they were going through layoff after layoff and he's like surviving, but he
Yeah.
knows it's inevitable. That'll keep you up at night too.
Same thing here. As you move up the scale of success or, doing bigger and bigger things, like it's still the same game. Like the poker chips just get bigger, right? Like, you say, you got no bad deal or trying to, figure out a tough deal you're in the middle of, like that probably would have absolutely smashed you 10 years ago or whatever, right? Like from a personal standpoint, you wouldn't even handle it, right? And I think
Sure.
about the stuff that
Yep.
happens day to day in my business now that like 10 years ago, holy moly, like the comings and goings of money and the size and things like that. Like there's no way I would be able to handle that, the pressure and the small mindset I had at that point. And now it's just like, well, yeah, it's just a regular
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Right, exactly. And that's why mindset's really important. We all have limited beliefs, and you really need to work as you grow as an entrepreneur to all your mindsets. And, one of the things my beautiful wife has said to me long ago when I have these moments, she was like, there was a time in your life you would have been thankful to have these problems. And I always use that to humble me and ground me. Like, you're right. These problems suck today, but 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, I would have loved to have them. So
Yeah, and
it
those are
helps
the
hold
problems you
things in
wanted to
perspective.
have. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm same
Yeah.
thing. Like going back 10 years ago, I'm probably so much further along than I ever even believed possible. Right. But then you
Yeah.
get there and you're like, oh, I'm this ungrateful, you know what I mean? Whatever. Right. But it is
Correct.
important. Like I was listening to some YouTube motivational thing this morning in the gym, and it's just, Tony Robbins was on there talking about, it's like you don't experience life. You experience the life you focus on, right? Like there's things everywhere
I
around
love
you
that.
to be grateful. And at the exact same time, there's things around you at all times to be like point out that, oh, that's bad. But it's literally like, what do you focus on is what you get. If you can find something to be grateful for at any moment. And it's just a mindset thing.
Totally. Ed Milet talks about that in his books. And I forget the part of the brain he calls it, but it starts with like an M. But he says, what happens is like if you're interested in like maybe buying a car, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to buy a Toyota pickup, right? All of a sudden you're driving around, everywhere you look, you see Toyota pickups all around. Before you never noticed them, right? So that is a perfect example. You live a life of what you focus on. So if you focus on negativity, toxicity,
Everywhere.
being a victim, that's the life you're going to live, right? If you think of a life of, I'm going to persevere, abundance, collaboration, providing value, wealth, health, and work towards those things, you'll surround yourself with that.
Yeah.
The
It's called the reticulating activated system. So RAS. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the part of your brain that like filters things, right? Like our brain is, we're getting stimulus, like unreal amounts of stimulus at any given moment. And our brain, part of our brain that filters like, okay, this is important, pay attention. Most things we don't even rise to our consciousness, right? Because our brain can't handle all of it.
Right.
And yeah, it's true. It's like you start to focus on something and, you even want to go biblical. It's like, if you seek it, you'll find it, right? Like if you look for it, you will find it.
Yeah. And, that's what's led me to some of the great coaches in my business. We talked early on about me investing everything into that one coach. The reason why I'm here where I am today is not because I took that one course and I was like, all right, I'm going to be a superstar, right? Like I invested a lot of time and money and energy into more coaching and personal development. And it was having that mindset of trying to find these guys. Some of these people were hard to find, but they were huge in my ability to grow as an entrepreneur. And my team members who have had a lot of I've invested a lot of coaching. They've been able to grow and prosper.
Yeah. And same here on my journey is like the more I started investing in self-development and coaching and mastermind groups and all those things, right? I mean, that's just gas on the fire, right? The tools and it truly are, you are the most valuable thing, right? Like the most valuable investment. And the more you pour into you get all the leverage to then go make more money in whatever business ventures you are. But it's really you that needs to be developed to go do any of that stuff.
100%. And that's why I'll never stop doing personal development or investing in myself. I read books every single morning. I still have a morning routine. I'm at the gym just like you today. These things never, ever end. 1% better every day. Yeah. I'm only 40. I'm going to be 48 this year.
Yeah.
I plan on living well past 100. I'm still in the first half of my life, which means I have a very expensive second half of my life. So I need a lot of personal development because I want to do a lot of fun things.
I got a buddy of mine that has a very clear vision. He's like, I'm going to die at 108 years old. He's like, I'll probably slip and fall in the shower at 108. But that is his vision, right? And that's so cool. And like, he is planning his life to live to 108.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
as you should.
And, with technology coming down the route, I mean, we may be of the age that our lives are extended dramatically, depending on what breakthroughs come through, for sure.
I am going to use modern science and any kind of medical advantage I can use over the next half of my life. That's for sure, to live as long as I can. My wife and I want to travel the world, and we want to see our grandchildren grow. We just want to have tons of fun and adventures. And, and if it wasn't for me taking these risks and still taking these risks, I would not be able to live the life that I want to do, where I travel and will be able to travel and spend a lot of time with my kids now that are leaving the nest and their kids down the road. And that stuff's super important to me, because we can all make more money, but can't get more time. It's so invaluable. So you really need to make sure you're working hard to enjoy every moment.
I've really been starting to try to, to be a focus of mine is just being present in every moment.
Sure.
With entrepreneurs, like, you're so forward focused, you're so thinking about the future and driving and sacrificing today. And you're just of that mindset that, like, you can go a long time and never really be where you're at, right? You're always out in the future. And that's something I'd say I haven't been great at, but it's really a focus. I have 3 small children, and, the oldest has hit 8 now. And you realize, well, like, wow, that 8 years was fast. It's just a matter of, like, I want to squeeze everything out of this that I can.
You really do. We have 5 kids between me and Michelle together. My 2 already left the house. Her first just left the house. We just dropped them off at Kings Point at the Merchant Marine Academy. We have another kid who's going into a senior year, getting ready to leave. And we have a kid going into high school. So we're like 4 years away from having no kids. And it just seemed like, 5 years ago, we had all these little kids running around the house during COVID, where we're going crazy, right? And just like that, it's gone, and they'll never live with us again, most likely. The mornings of just hanging out and doing the little things are just gone. All of a sudden you start to reflect, like, God, I just miss watching Saturday cartoons with my kids on the couch. I was too busy doing emails at that time, but God, I wish I could put the phone down and spend time with them. Right. And all that stuff happens so quickly, and it's hard to find that balance. But to your point, like, the next 10, 12, 13, 14 years of your kids' lives, to be able to, like what me and Michelle have been able to do. We've been to every school thing over their last 5, 6 years. They were always home. We pick them up. If they need to not go to school for the day, we're there. We've been so present. So to have that opportunity on the last half of their childhood, because of our real estate business, has been the best blessing this business has given to us.
That's fantastic stuff. And that stuff, even, currently, me and my wife have had a lot of conversations about, of like, what's important, what's not important. And because, I can work all day, every day, and run all day, every day.
Me too.
And, and never stop, like, truly similar type, like, as the guy that wants to run and go and do all the things, like, it's not always the right move.
I wasn't able to travel I live in New Hampshire. I wasn't able to travel outside of New England until I was 24 years old. It was the first time I ever went on an airplane.
Same here.
In my
First
life,
airplane I ever went was on my honeymoon.
There you go, right? That was the first time I left the country. So, over the last 6, 7 years of being in this business, we've been able to take the kids on a lot of different vacations. We've gone to St. John, we've gone to Florida and the Carolinas, different things, right? And Michelle and I have traveled a lot for businesses, everything else. And we built this thing of wanderlust. And our whole goal going forward is, like, how much can we travel and can we build a life of running our businesses from wherever we are in the world, right? But our kids now all have this wanderlust bug too. And they can't wait to see the world. And we've been able to give them that opportunity to get a taste of what that feels like. And now they're all motivated to have these great lives so they can go explore that. Man, it's so rewarding. And if we were just working all the time and my wife was like, hey, let's go do some fun stuff, we would not have those moments.
That's awesome. Yeah. We just last month got back with took the whole family down to Cancun, and it was a really cool experience, not only for the kids and the family, but also it was part of a mastermind group I'm in, and there were 15 different families down there of fantastic entrepreneurs and great conversations, and we even did some marriage stuff. It was kind of a whole family thing. But yeah, I mean, the experience was amazing, and then the relationships you also gain out of that. I mean, the deepening relationships, especially with all these other successful business owners. It's what would you credit as your best decision you've ever made?
Whew, that's a good. I obviously was selling my house inside of my real estate business, our professional thing. But honestly, my best decision I ever made was marrying my second wife. I don't not to sound cliche, but she's my best friend. She's built this business with me. We spend all day, every day together. A lot of what we've been able to achieve has been because of her and her ability to bring our vision together and help with the kids and just all the stuff. And, my best decision hands down has been sharing my life with her.
When you're looking at relationships with spouse or really anybody in your life, it's like trying to evaluate that. It's like, does this person make me better, right? Like, do when I'm around them, do they make me rise to another level, right? In different areas. Yeah.
She does. And that's all I ever wanted was somebody like that. And that's what she does, and just a simple thing. Like she just made a whole bunch of green juices because she knows I want to have green juice to be healthy. And she doesn't really even care for green juice that much. She'll have them occasionally, but she just made them because she knows it makes me better. Right. And that's just a small thing, but there's many things like that. Again, the compound effect of all that makes me want to be the best man I can be for her.
Mm-hmm.
Which
it's kind of interesting. And this is part of the stuff we talked about that mastermind group or the family thing is that like kind of the masculine, feminine energies there around a lot of that stuff. And man, if women honestly probably have a lot of the power in the relationship, but like if the women, really learn how to harness that power, they can get the man to run and go do anything, right?
Oh, how many burpees you want me to do?
Really,
you got it.
They go deeper, really understand. They can, they can pump their man up to get them to go to anyway.
Women really rule the world. Let's face it, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
So one more question I wanted to ask you really was going back to 2008 or right when you were learning about getting out of your bad real estate deal or avoiding foreclosure. If you go back and give that person one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would have. I go back and forth between two things. I would start real estate then. I know that sounds crazy, but knowing what I know now, I probably would have moved myself out to California and became a real estate agent because I could have made a fortune selling houses
and if you would have
the next 15
dude, if you would have bought anything, you could have bought anything blindfolded in 2010, 11, 12.
So I would have went out there. I would have been an agent. I would have been an investor. I love real estate investing. That's truly my passion. Being an agent wouldn't have been, but it would have been a great catalyst to get me to where I would love to get to financially. So that's what I would have done, knowing what I know now. So
Jeremy, it's been a great conversation, man. What's the best way? What's the best way people can connect with you if they're interested, kind of what you're doing or what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm on social media everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. Jeremy Beland. You can also check us out at REI Freedom. So real estate investing, REI Freedom. That's our branding for our coaching program. If anybody has interest in learning a little bit more about what I do and wanting to do that, I can provide guidance and coaching on that. You can just reach out to me. If you really just want to talk to somebody about entrepreneurship or self-development, happy to talk about that as well. I love talking about things that make me better and I can give value to other people. So I would, if anybody wants to talk to me, please reach out. Don't be afraid. I'd love to talk to you.
I would challenge you if Jeremy touches you anyway or got you excited anyway in this conversation, absolutely do that. That's an amazing offer of value of a guy that has done a lot of ridiculous stuff in the real estate world and is willing to just give that away to strangers and take time to do that. So that's amazing value. Anything else you want to leave the listeners with, Jeremy?
No, listen, I guess the last thing, I always say these three things when it comes to real estate. I think it goes good with any business, right? There's never going to be a perfect opportunity. So stop waiting, start doing. But when it comes to building your brand, building your business, building your goals and entrepreneur things, always be marketing, always be learning, and always take massive imperfect action. You apply those three things consistently, you'll achieve a lot more than you realize. Jeremy.
Listeners, thank you for checking out the show. Check out Jeremy, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.